Madeleine Miller called it gripping and hauntingly beautiful. Ruth Ozeki said it was big, bold, ecstatic. Today we're talking about Portia Elan's debut, Homebound. Hi, I'm Olivia. This is AV Club where I'm usually talking lit fic, horror, weird books, and today it's a standalone book review of Homebound. I'm so happy you're here today. Thank you for joining me. Homebound interested me first, seeing these heavy hitter blurbs and not being familiar with the author. Also, just like the most stunning cover, definitely my most beautiful book cover of the year. I think it has gorgeous foiling, all the way around, just beautiful. I even did my nails to match this previously. I've already removed it and I have new book matching nails. I thought that it had a lot of appeal right off the bat, found it intriguing on the shelf, hadn't heard anyone talking about this. And then whenever I looked into the story, it sounded exactly up my alley. The hook for it is that over 600 years, 5 interlocking lives, an immersive, open hearted exploration of the many paths that can lead us home. And it starts in the 1980s with Bex, whose uncle has just passed away. They had a close relationship. He was teaching her how to use computers. She was studying computers at school. And before he passed, he had started making a video game. And she was also learning how to make these early computer video games with him, but then also continued on learning in order to finish this game for him. She lives with her best friend, who she has a very close relationship with, feels almost possessive about, has some complicated feelings towards, and a feeling of sapphic love and also just of queerness generally is a recurring theme throughout this book across all of the intersecting lives. We're dropped into this world following Bex, and immediately I loved her. Like, I was so invested in her story. And then it sends you very quickly into the future. The game that Bex is making, which is called Homebound, you see her developing it throughout the novel. And you also see that there has been effects of this game and its influence across all the future. And this is not just the near future. It starts in 1983 with Bex, but then it quickly goes to the 2050s, the 2080s, the 2500s. And so you see a wide range of technology develop. In this 2070s, 2080s timeline, you see that there are robots being developed that have some sort of artificial intelligence. They are being honed in to have different capabilities, and there's a special connection with one of them, but they are something that is being developed at this research facility at a university, and it's something that's being taken very seriously. However, there is an Elon Musk figure in this who buys out this company pretty early on, and so you have concerns about what this guy is going to do. He's also very Elon Musk in that he just like says he's going to do things. Like he says, you know, we're going to go to Mars, and we'll be in Mars in what however many years, because they're also trying to escape climate change related disaster. So there is this need to escape Earth, they think. And then there's this far future timeline in the 2500s where there are spaceships and stowaways, and it's almost space opera-esque in terms of its grandeur, and it's just so different from this very intimate point of view that we have with Bex at the beginning. And so that's really all you need to know about the plot going into it. I do think that there were stronger timelines and stronger voices than others. I thought that I was just going to devour this because I obviously love a sapphic book, a queer book, but I also love a video game book, which is something that we don't get a lot of. The most popular and obvious comp title would be Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, because of that video game element that you might think, if I loved the video game element in this, which I don't know how much people really needed the video game element. I don't know if that's why people loved this book or if that was just kind of a background, but that was my favorite part of this book, that you're thinking, maybe if I liked that, would I like this? And I think that's about where the similarities end, even though they are covering a time period. In Homebound, it's more like the time periods are bound to a short number of years. The university years, I think you see the most change throughout, but it's more like different POVs rather than following a long string of time because the characters are so different. So you don't really get that I'm following this group of people and intimate changes in their life over a long period of time, even though this technically covers a lot more time. For me, Beck's point of view was the most compelling, that I really wanted to know what was going on with her relationship with her uncle, that she's finding out things about him after his death. She is taking care of her grandmother to some amount who is dealing with dementia, and she's uncovering new things in that relationship. Her relationship with her friend that she has feelings for, that she hasn't really come to terms with exactly what type of feelings she has for, but get complicated as they start to date men throughout the story. And she has personal growth throughout this that I found really compelling. And then the university plotline, I found that really compelling, that they're dealing with academic honesty and the responsibility whenever you're dealing with science and technology, and what you owe it to your community, to your coworkers, to if you're making artificial intelligence, do you owe anything to them? And this is like so far in the future that you're seeing different sides of AI than, Chat GPT or something like that. But where the book kind of lost me, why I didn't love this book, is that this space opera kind of future, in the far future, hundreds of years in the future, I just could not connect to that storyline at all. There was not the same level of intimacy and the same look inside of the characters. There was a lot more characters in those scenes. They were on ships, and I just found it really hard to follow. I think that I'm fairly intelligent, and I do read a good amount of science fiction, so it's not that environment was so bizarre to me that I couldn't follow it. I just couldn't get a sense of any of the characters, and I found that those sections, which tended to be the longest sections, really slowed down my reading throughout the book and my overall enjoyment. I did rate this 3 stars. It was not, there's parts of it that I love so much, and I wish that I loved the whole thing so I could highly recommend it, because I loved Bex as a main character, and seeing her personal growth. But there was just such a jarring switch in tone between the 1980s plot line, the 2070s, 2080s plot line, and then the far future. It just felt like completely different books. Something else that I did really enjoy about this was that you get to have parts of the book that are from the video game itself, that it is a text based RPG where you're making choices. And so the formatting of the book is different. And I found that really interesting. I liked that a lot. So I did find parts of this book and aspects of this book to be really compelling. And I found the overall themes to be compelling, that throughout all of these timelines, there are these connections of queerness and love and responsibility to each other, and each person figuring out what makes them, what makes them human. And so it's almost a great book for me. I really wanted to love it. And so I'm kind of disappointed that it wasn't an overall love for me. Some books that I think, if you liked this, or if you, like me, were maybe a little bit disappointed, or if you're like, that sounds interesting, but you're telling me it's not the best book ever, should I read it or not? Well, you decide for yourself if you want to read it or not. However, some comp titles, like I said, if you want a video game book, I do think that this is more of a compelling book about development of an indie game, if you like that part of it. If you want to have that relationship between Bex and her friend taken in a different way about a friendship that might also be love, then I recommend Chosen Family by Madeline Gray, which is about two women in Sydney over 18 years that does follow a long standing friendship and the changes in it throughout childhood to college years to adulthood. I think that this is a great book. And if you want a book that feels kind of historical, about love, about what does it mean to be human or to be deserving of a relationship, From the Wreck by Jane Rawson. I haven't heard anyone talk about this book in a while. Also an Australian book. It was much loved by Simon Savage over at Savage Reads, so much that he ended up getting a blurb on the cover of the book. But this one's really interesting. There is this shipwreck in the 1850s, and there is some sort of survivor alongside George, our main character in the shipwreck. But who was she? She was not on the ship before. No one seems to know who she was, and it follows them throughout a time period where there are other speculative things unraveling. So maybe this will be your speed. I would be interested in reading more from Portia Elan because I did love some of the point of view so much that I did find really compelling to read. It was just that that far future one, it just felt a little too cold for me, that I couldn't get a feeling about any of the characters, couldn't keep them straight. They didn't really have that much characterization to even remember them, much less care about their individual paths. So kind of a mixed bag, but overall, really glad I read it. There are things from this that I will remember and will stick with me. So it's not like a 3-star mid book. It's a 3-star. I had problems with a book that I think could have been great, that I could have loved. So, yeah, do with that what you will. But thank you so much for listening to me and joining me for this book review. I will be back to talk about books again very soon. Until next time, bye.